Sam Ellis, welcome to the Preconstruction Podcast.
Hey Gareth, how you doing?
All good. Looking forward to having some multifamily crack on today's episode. For anybody who doesn't know you, Sam, give us an overview. Where are you at right now? What's your position within your company?
Yeah, so I'm at Fortune Johnson LLC. We are a multifamily general contractor focused in the Southeast markets, really work in Atlanta, Charlotte, and Richmond. I've been with the company for 12 years now. Couple of different roles right now. I'm a pre-construction manager, so I'm, along with a counterpart of mine, we are running our day-to-day operations of our pre-construction department.
Nice, love it. And we're going to get into all things pre-construction very, very shortly. But as always, with every guest, let's start at the start. Talk to me about early on, Sam, as a young whippersnapper coming up, growing up in North Carolina. What made you get into construction? Obviously, you did a construction management degree out of East Carolina University. Was that always the plan?
No, it wasn't. I think, one of my first entries into the construction world I guess, graduated high school, summer before starting college. And, my dad came to me. He's like, you need to go get a job. You need to make some money. I'd always done odd jobs, cut grass, umpired T-ball games. He was like, you need to go work. And so he actually was doing some legal work with a site contractor in Eastern North Carolina where I grew up. And so I got on with them. I mean, you say digging ditches. I mean, we were literally digging ditches,
Brilliant.
installing sewer line at the beach, and did that for 3 or 4 summers. And that was really kind of okay, I like this, especially the second summer when I came back and, you could ride around and go, oh, well, I put that sewer tank in, or I helped put that sewer tank in. Um, the another part, my grandparents and two of my uncles had a home building construction company where in Greenville where I went to school. And so I was working with them again, sweeping houses before inspection, cutting grass when it was done. And so it always kind of grown up, I'd say, adjacent to the construction world. Um, and really until my second year of college is probably when I decided, I was getting an accounting degree, but I knew that I like to work with numbers and I love numbers. So I went with the construction management and thought, well, I'll just keep the accounting side. That should look good to a potential employer. And so that's kind of how it got started.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. So, did you start with an accountancy degree and then pivot in year two?
Yeah,
Brilliant.
I again, the numbers aspect, I knew I wanted to go into pre-construction. So that was easy, and I thought that would be a little bit of a differentiator, honestly. Not a lot of people are
I
going
would
that dual degree.
I would say you were the only person in your construction management degree that thought about pre-construction. That's amazing. So when you talk about you always knew it was going to be pre-construction, who gave you that idea? Was it working with the home builder? Was it understanding construction? Or was it like a career lecturer, careers teacher?
No, well, we had a somebody come in from Lindley's and do a presentation to a class, and he, talked about the pre-construction side. And what really got me really interested in it was, I mean, a lot of people that know me know I can have a short attention span and be a little impatient. And pre-construction, I mean, we have a 6 week bid cycle and then we're on to the next one, right? Now those jobs come back and we work on them again, but there's not a whole lot of repetition day to day. And I knew that would be something that would draw me into the pre-construction world.
Brilliant. Understand your strengths. That's unusual at a young age. Obviously, you got the advice from the Lenleys guy who came in, but understand your strengths and where it can be applied to construction. Because I mean, if I think back to my degree in 2004, 2005, I didn't know what I wanted to do, let alone my strengths and weaknesses towards some sort of degree that would lead me into a career that I wanted. So, very interesting. And then obviously finished the degree straight into estimating then as well, which is what you wanted. Was it everything you thought it was?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a learning curve. You come out of school and you think, oh man, I got a degree in this. I know a lot about this. And then you get to your first 3 or 4 months, you're like, man, I don't know anything about this. So, what was really, really key for me was getting a couple of mentors early on that were very invested in myself. I mean, the Fortune Johnson, the Fortune Johnson family is what we call it. But I'm my counterpart now is he was my mentor 10 years ago.
Brilliant.
We have a lot of people who have that 10 plus year time with the company, and we really invest in young people. And I was lucky enough to have, I had three or four really great ones. So it was definitely interesting. As everybody's first job, you kind of it hits you in the face a little bit, but the first 6 months you start kind of getting in a groove, you start learning, and then you really just take off, and that's where we focus on. We break everything up into trades and divisions. So we're starting with flooring, bath hardware, things that are a little, I don't want to say more common sense, but more common sense.
And that's the beauty of it, right, Sam? Because if you think about you had an idea that wanted to be pre-construction estimating, you did the construction management degree. One thing I always like to ask, because each university college is different, how much of the construction management degrees, those final 2 years, how many modules were involved in estimating and pre-construction? Was there any kind of to give you a flavor for it?
Yeah, we did have one.
Good.
But it's such a broad overview. And again, I start here and I go, well, man, we should have way more estimating classes. But that the school is trying to give you a very broad general overview and give you some pretty baseline knowledge. Which I would say, East Carolina, we're very proud of our construction management program. I think Fortune Johnson probably has 10 to 12 ECU graduates.
Nice.
A lot in our Charlotte market, a couple down here in Atlanta.
Yeah,
But
I have to say now. I mean, I asked the same question to everyone across the US, where what their degree was like and what the program was like. And I have to agree with you. We do a lot of work in the Carolinas, placing people, and the ECU grads are of a decent level, I have to say, so that the program's good. But the reason I asked the question is I would love more pre-construction and estimating modules, and even before that, going into the finance of the real estate side of construction as well, because, and we're going to get into it later, you almost have to, as a pre-construction manager, understand that side of it as well.
oh yeah, no, I mean it's such a big topic of conversation, especially right now.
Yeah.
Um, getting that market knowledge and being able to effectively communicate that to different developers. But something a lot of people take for granted for is we've got to communicate that to the submarket. That's such a huge piece of what's going on in the market, that being knowledgeable and being able to talk to those your trade partners is, I would argue, just as important as being able to talk to the developers or owners that we work with.
Brilliant, brilliant. And then after that, you went about 3.5 years as an estimator. Then you went back out onto the field for about 6 years. Tell me the thinking behind that and how valuable that was.
Yeah, so it initially started as I was going to go do one job, get some field experience because I thought it would make me a better estimator.
Yeah.
I'm very much a in person looking at something. That's how I learn best. And while those 3 years in pre-construction, certainly, the top thing it gave me was just the ability to interpret and look at drawings. We're cycling through multiple bid cycles, learning where things are in the drawings. That was such a huge help when I got to the project management side. But learning and understanding how it all pieces together, that was my goal. We were going to do that for a job, and circumstances changed a little bit, and I ended up kind of just running with that project management side again for 6 or 7 years. Some of it was based on what I wanted at the time. Some of it was based on some company needs, but it's the number one thing I think that is, I consider myself, I would say, at least a good estimator. And I think a big part of that was the time spent out in the field, you know, learning, okay, this is what happens 2 years after we turn the budget in, and what struggles our field teams go through and what struggles owners go through during construction. I mean, that's just been a huge help since I came back a couple of years ago.
Brilliant. And I love that, right? So you went from the estimating side again early on, pretty green and behind the ears or wet behind the ears. You went out in the field 5 or 6 years. How did your perception change when you came back into pre-construction? What were you more focused on? What were the lessons learned? And how did you change as a pre-con manager then?
I think the biggest thing was being able, excuse me, being able to logistically look at a plan and see where the financial impacts of our logistics are going to come from. The first stint that I did in pre-construction, yeah, I understood that you had to cut fill to get the elevation to where you needed to go. I didn't necessarily understand that it's a huge problem to have a 10,000 cubic yard mound of dirt on your site trying to move around with everything else. Um, and just a better one, it gave me a better understanding, because I can't remember the count, but I was probably involved with 7 or 8 jobs from the project management side. Learning our buyout process, learning what our pinch points are on buyouts, and learning our common, whether they're scope gaps or items that we might not be covering in pre-construction, and being able to take those and apply and say, okay, I know this is generally a problem. So let's try to focus in and get a way that we can solve this.
Brilliant. Yeah. Because, I mean, everyone to me at your levels, pre-con manager, director, VP, they've all spent a considerable amount of time on site. And until you do that, it's very difficult to understand that how you can change things in pre-construction. Because at the end of the day, if we keep doing pre-construction the same way without looking at the site or the operations or getting feedback from that, then nothing's really going to change. So the more, I mean, I'm pushing now that actually the real smartest people on site, whether it be a PM, superintendent, project engineer, those guys and gals, they need to come in and be part of pre-construction.
Yeah, and we do a pretty good job cross training. I can't tell you we've had a lot of our superintendents in our pre-construction department, but our project managers, especially, if we get a 2 or 3 month gap between jobs, we had last year probably 3 or 4 PMs come in. They were assigned to a job and we were going to price it for contract. So, okay, hey, let's get in, take some, you're going to be buying out site and concrete pretty early. Why don't you take those from the pre-construction side? And that's a big part that helps them understand kind of, okay, here are the stresses that we're going through. I joke around with, some of my colleagues who are senior PMs, well, we missed this item. Like, yeah, but we got a lot of other stuff, And so playing that balance of, and it helps our PMs understand, okay, this is it. We have 3, 4 months to buy out a job. We have 6 weeks to estimate it, and really 3 with sub bids. So there comes to a point where you've got to either plan for it, clarify it, or take the risk that it's going to work out.
And that's another interesting one because I'm seeing kind of outside of multifamily and mostly non-residential that the projects are now becoming probably, well, maybe 20-30% longer in pre-construction estimating, just because they realize it's so important. Are you seeing that in the multifamily? And granted, it's not always the same because different developers have different timelines and different thresholds. But are you seeing projects being in pre-construction longer?
I'm not, but again, I've been back for 2 years. I mean, compared to when I first started, yes. I mean, we were probably on a 4 to 5 week bid cycle. Then, granted, that was 12 years ago, and we're at a 6 week bid cycle right now. I mean, I think a big part of that is resources in the subcontractor market.
Yeah.
I mean, they're right now there's a lot of people looking at a lot of work. Everybody wants to see if this is the job, if this is the time when we can get it started based on the budget. And so, we send drawings out and some relationships I've built with our subcontractors. I mean, I'll call and our general timeline, we send a bid out. 3 weeks later, sub bids are due, and we'll have about 3 weeks to compile everything. Talking to some of our subs, and it's really refreshing because we can have these conversations, but they're going to tell me, I'm not even going to look at it for 2 weeks. So I know I'm going to miss your bid date. And that's where we can, coordinate with them. Okay, I'm going to get you a lot of information up front,
Yeah.
but I need that bid in that fourth week. And again, generally we've been able to work everything out, but that's what I think has caused a lot of the, we'll call it the expanding of the bid timeline.
And it's interesting, Sam, because it's not exactly boom time at the minute with multifamily. So you would think that the subs would have more time to get the bids in on time, or are they just overwhelmed with developers doing pre-construction services trying to get numbers just to see where it's at rather than get numbers to actually go build?
Well, I think it is kind of one and the same.
Yeah.
Yes, the construction market has slowed over the last year, but I think a lot of developers have jobs teed up. Whether it's at a design development level or a GMP level, drawing level, and they're wanting to see if they can go build it. And that's where a lot of our in-house and cost history comes in. We've gotten to where we like to analyze a job, maybe ask for a week to put a in-house budget together on it, because then we can say, okay, I mean, this is where we're at from an in-house number. Yes, the numbers are going to change. We've looked at it for a week. However, is this generally in your ballpark? If so, then yes, let's go proceed. Let's go see if we can get to the budget. And I think there's so much of that going on, people trying to find that cost point where they can go build, that the submarket and pre-construction is oversaturated right now.
There you are. Interesting. Well explained. You mentioned there about getting the number right in the sub side. What divisions and are you seeing now the biggest fluctuation or the toughest to crack and the toughest to get numbers out of?
That's a good question. Right now, a lot of the submarket is hungry, so getting the job or getting a budget turned around is not a huge struggle. And we're seeing costs flatlining for the most part. I mean, I would say we took a dip on the back half of last year and then just not a ton of data behind it, but the first couple months of this year, I mean, we're seeing it level out a little bit.
Nice.
Still downward trending, but not quite as much. Honestly, the biggest challenge that we're running into, and this is something that we've identified and we have put a lot of time and resources in, is we have our pre-construction subcontractor bid, and then we have the negotiation time with the project manager, and there's a big gap there
Okay.
because once it becomes real, once there's a contract behind it, our trade partners are getting very aggressive with their numbers, which is great. I used to be a project manager. Having a lot of house savings is always a good thing. However, when we are scratching and clawing and going through massive VE efforts, our owners and we're pretty frank in our conversations with our owners, and they tell us, hey, look, that money does me not a lot of good right now.
Right.
We want to put that in the job. So working with our with our trade partners, the first thing we do is identify, you know, this is a real job. If we're at budget, we're going to go build this. And we've had some developers, send equity letters stating that we can send to our submarket, anything that solidifies it as if we hit our number, we're going to go build this job. It is trending and moving in the right direction. The second piece is, we've stepped into a little bit of, you say, pre-negotiation with our trade partners. We're talking to them after their bids are turned in, and we're
Nice.
going, okay, we're likely going to have a budget problem. We're going to try to solve it with value engineering. However, if push comes to shove, what are you comfortable at number wise? And that's kind of been the second way we've solved that problem. So, but it's been an interesting challenge and a very new challenge for us.
Yeah, and it's a good one as well because it forces your hand to become creative as well, not just in house, but with your subs. And then, of course, subcontractor relationships becomes a key point to that as well. And if you're sticking to, like you said, 2 or 3 key markets and you're doing the same work and there's a consistency there to your work and a consistency for the subs to go on your projects, then it has to be a good thing.
Oh yeah, and that's our one of our biggest strengths is our subcontractor market. We're usually focusing in. We have 3 or 4 that we know do a really good job and that we like working with, and odds are it's going to be one of those 3 or 4 that gets the job, and that just spiders its way into pre-construction. Again, I'm talking to the same 4 plumbers on every job. So we kind of know each other, and they know if I'm calling and don't leave a voicemail, it's probably not that important. But if I'm calling and texting and emailing, like they're going to try as much as they can to get on the phone and call me back.
Brilliant. I love it because let's be honest, we talked about it before starting to record here. You are very busy. I mean, tail end of last year, 8 projects. That's a lot. What are you seeing for 2025?
We're seeing more projects that continue to become real.
Good.
Right now we're in a stage where, I mean, I'm gonna sit here and knock on wood, but we're looking at closing another probably 3 or 4 in the next, call it 2 or 3 months. And then have some very good opportunities on the board for summer and later this year. Those are in the stage of, okay, let's figure out our budget. Let's figure out where we are on an in-house perspective. And if there's a gap, how are we going to close it? So that's what we're focusing in on right now.
Brilliant. I mean that's probably above what everyone else is feeling at the minute in multifamily. Everyone else has not got the same sort of backlog or kind of forecasting. What do you think that's down to? Is it the way you guys go about it? Is it the areas that you're working in? We talk and we hear of oversupply in certain regions. That's obviously not the case in Richmond and Carolinas.
Yeah.
Obviously, economic uncertainty. Has the new administration helped? Has the fact that hopefully maybe a bit of deregulation on that, the interest rates are stabilizing? What do you think it's coming down to?
Well, it's a combination of a little bit of everything, right? The capital markets are softening a little bit for us, and our developers are getting better terms. The equity market is still a little bit of a challenge, but we're being able to work through that. But Fortune Johnson specific, I mean, our number one goal is customer service,
Yeah.
and that is not just our project managers. I mean, our pre-construction team, our field staff. We we have what we call our three-legged stool. And if we meet the three-legged stool, we're going to have a successful job. It's on time, on budget, and a happy owner. And I think our founder, Brett Fortune, would argue that the happy owner is probably the most important leg of that stool.
Yeah.
And so, it influences the way we approach, because any construction job, or whether it's in operations or pre-construction, we're going to have problems. We're going to go through challenges. We're very open book. I mean, if I have an issue with a VE that we gave, I mean, it happened on a job last year. We were budgeting some VEs and I made a mistake. And, instead of maybe trying to hide behind that mistake or figure out how we could massage the numbers, I called the developer, hey, I made a mistake on this. This number's wrong. I'm giving you too much money. We're going to have to back this out. It's probably not his favorite conversation we've ever had, but I think at the end of the day, it's that upfront, open honesty and really the communication level that we like to provide that our developers like because they always know where they stand with
Yeah.
us.
I love that, and not only that, it you got to be humble enough to be able to put your hands up as well and do that. And that client, I'm sure, and I know that speaking before you, a lot of your clients are negotiated at the minute. They're repeat clients,
Yes.
and they keep coming back to you. I mean, that stands to the product that you're delivering as well. Because you mentioned the three-legged stool, on time and on budget, on schedule, and a happy owner. It's not always easy, especially in these times. The upfront and honesty is key. Tell me about some other challenges within multifamily you're seeing right now, delivering projects.
Well, let's see. We've talked about tight budgets, and we've talked about the gap that we're experiencing between pre-construction and buyout. I mean, the other piece is really, I mean, it's a common challenge on every job, but it's getting to first turn, right? I mean, that is our first turn. Typically we're turning, units 3, 4 months before the final project is complete. Our owners are wanting to get 60 units in the leasing office so they can go ahead and start getting some rent in. And that first turn time, call it 60 days before first turn. I mean, it is a fire drill for our field
Yeah.
teams because it's the culmination of 18 months of work. we're finally at the due date. So that I think you'll always see is a challenge. One of the ways that we kind of handle that is our field staffing. We run probably more superintendents than maybe some of our competition, but in our opinion, having eyes on, we like to shrink the scope of your job, but increase the expectations, and that's how we tackle it. And so, being able to do that and get to that first turn, I mean, that's a challenge that has existed for a long time and will continue to exist. However, we continue to see success based on the way that we approach our jobs.
Brilliant. I love that. More superintendents, as you say, it's unusual to have that approach. The other thing I want to talk about is the developers. Obviously, people want more innovative smart homes at the moment. How difficult is that, keeping the costs down, but having them exactly like the next generation want them? I mean, what
Yeah,
are you about 2 year lead time when you start to someone moving in?
just about. Yeah, I'd say our average project is 2 years. So I
Nice.
maybe call it 18, 20 months till the first units or the first residents are there. That is such an ever-changing market right now. We've gone from Bluetooth entry to totally, you enter your entry door, all your common area doors, all your access control is wired together in the span of, 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Um, so really, that's so owner specific for us that we try to generally we're carrying an allowance for access control. So I don't want to cop out on the question, but usually our project managers are the ones dealing with that. We set them allowance because it's while it ends up being a very primary part of the project in pre-construction. That's one where we know it's not quite designed yet. The owners probably hadn't made final decisions on exactly what they want. So we're able to put an allowance in but our PMs, we're constantly communicating with them because uh, early in my career, and this was a big learning point. I thought an allowance, you put an allowance in, and well, there you go. The risk is transferred.
Yeah.
And while contractually that's true, I've also been a part of some conversations where I myself might have been low on an allowance, and it's not exactly as easy as, well, it's an allowance, so the owner's going to pay for it. So we're always trying to sharpen our common allowances like that. But as far as the products, I mean, I think the big thing that we're seeing right now is you call it the total home entry, where it's you have one key for everything, and getting this each system to talk to each other. I mean, that's the big struggle that we're going through right now with it.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, not just the multifamily space, but we did a data center series of the pre-construction podcast, and the allocation of electrical package to these projects at the minute is just getting completely out of control. Sometimes it's up to 55-60% of the overall cost of the project. How much of it is the electrical package is taken up of the overall cost?
Let's see. I just take some number. I would say probably 10%.
Yeah, that's not bad. Yeah, that's not bad.
I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I'd say on a 50, $60 million project, you're going to run about a $6 million electrical package.
Nice. Yeah. And again, I would imagine with the whole smart home thing that'll probably go up a little bit over the next couple of years.
Yeah,
So
I mean, yeah,
tell me,
they're continuing to innovate on that.
yeah, it's great. It's great to see because that's at the end of the day, that's what the consumer wants. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's the kind of home that they want. Speakers in the ceiling, keyless entry. The other thing I want to finish with, Sam, it's really interesting to me. You mentioned about historical data and the importance of that when you're dealing with negotiating clients and being able to give them numbers. What sort of tech stack are you running right now, and what are you seeing on the tech side when it comes to pre-construction, estimating?
Yeah, so I saw this on the topic email, and I thought, man, I wish I could come back in 6 or 8 months because we were on our very infancy of figuring that out. We have identified historical cost tracking and data tracking as a huge need for us, but we have identified it in the last 2 or 3 months. So we are starting our journey to find that software that helps us. I will say we have recently signed up and are utilizing a software called Join for some VE tracking, and it's really helping us track our VE and major decisions through our pricing efforts. I would say we price a job probably on average 3 times, maybe once in house, once at a design development stage, and once for a GMP. And Join allows us to, we can put action items in, we can put VE ideas in, but it allows us to track that over time and make real time changes when the owners make a decision on VEs. It also allows us some kind of, I will say, overall project cost tracking. So we're excited about that one. We're actually utilizing it on our first project, and I've already been in it. So far so good on that. But we are continuing to, right now, what we kind of are, I'll call it our Band-Aid for cost data tracking, is we build our estimates in Timberline, which is a Sage software. And all of our estimates now are built really on a takeoff and unit cost perspective. So previously, we might just say concrete is one lump sum of $1 million. Now it's 100,000 square feet at $10 a square foot. So I can go back, or our department can go back on any job that we priced, and if I'm building an in-house budget, I can say, okay, we were $12 a square foot on this one. We were 13 on this one. So I'm going to go in at 12.50.
Yeah, I mean that's amazing to be able to do. That's incredible, isn't it? I mean
Yeah.
that's got to be the future. And
Yeah.
then obviously being able to use Join or plug Join in there and use historical data. And what are the clients? What's the client's response when you're able to show stuff like that?
I mean, so far it's been great.
Good.
We're again, I would say call me in about 3 weeks. That's when that numbers due. And we'll have it fully fledged, VE all incorporated. But the client that we're working with did a little bit of a trial, looked at it, and so far the feedback has been positive.
Brilliant. I love it. Yeah. I mean, once you get that right, I'd love to kind of come back to you in 6 or 12 months and find out what that looks like as well. Because obviously, the more data you put into that, the more beneficial it'll be for you. But for now, Sam, I want to say thank you. This has been brilliant. I really appreciate you giving up your time first and foremost. I mean, looking at Fortune Johnson now over the next, well, for 2025 and 2026, it's looking quite positive. If there is anybody listening here now, or maybe what we're finding a lot is, especially in our pre-construction estimating community, is there's a lot of other people going through the challenges that you're going through. Maybe are starting the tech stack building phase, or maybe they've just gone through it and they're 12 or 18 months in and they've made a few mistakes and they want to say, listen, Sam, here's a piece of advice. Don't make this mistake. Or don't
Please reach out.
We're finding that that's happening a lot. And it just might be something small to avoid. So if there is anybody interested in connecting with you, is LinkedIn the best place?
Yeah, that'd be great. Just Sam Ellis on LinkedIn. Send me a message, and like I said, if I love to avoid mistakes, especially if I don't have to make them first. So please reach out.
That's what it's all about, because we know there's enough work out there for everyone. So it's all about getting together and sharing ideas and success stories. Brilliant. Well, listen, thank you. You're getting you're on your road to Charlotte at the minute, down to a few projects.
Yeah, I got a couple of meetings, so gonna get in the car and drive through a bunch of rain and get to Charlotte mid-afternoon.
Love it. Well, listen, safe journey, and I'm looking forward to catching up again soon.
Absolutely, Gareth. I appreciate it.